John. Thanks. Good morning, everybody, to our esteemed beat writers here in person, everybody back home. Appreciate you joining us, and glad we're able to kick this thing off. Today will be a little bit of a dual press conference, part off-season update and part kickoff for 2022 and spring training. I think our focus right now is really on two things. First and foremost, our fans and then our players. Obviously, our fans have been through quite a bit here, not just with the lockout here recently, but you're talking about 3 unusual springs in a row. Spring training such a time to see families out here on the backfield and enjoying the access to players and the optimism of the new season, and that hasn't been the traditional spring for 3 years in a row. So we're looking forward to welcoming our fans back out here this week. Hopefully a bunch of folks can come on spring break next week from Texas, and we're looking forward to that. Introducing them to Corey and Marcus and our new players and a host of young talent that we're really excited about and excited for you guys to get to know as well. I also want to thank the city of Surprise, as it's been a challenging couple springs for our standpoint, our fans and our players. It's been challenging for them, and they've been wonderful. Travis and Kendra and everybody here, they've been great partners, and just want to thank them for their patience and their work and helping us prepare our team. As we get into the questions, I think we don't want to spend too much time kind of in the weeds on the CBA negotiations. I really want to focus kind of moving forward and our task at hand. And then similarly, kind of traditional off-season wise, we're not going to get into specific names of free agents, but happy to share our general thoughts and plans and what we want to accomplish here. So with that, why don't we open up for some questions?
Okay, just raise your hands, please, and we'll start taking questions. We'll start in the room with Jeff Wilson.
How exciting is today after all the stuff of the past 4 months or 3 months?
I'll go first and pass it out. I mean, it's I think that the day before the lockout was one of the most exciting days, outside of the on-field success or playoffs, one of the most exciting days that I've been part of with the Rangers, and the buzz in the Metroplex, the energy amongst our fans as we introduced, 4 new additions there, among our staff in Arlington, all the people there in the building. It was palpable, and then obviously it was cut off. So I feel like today is a chance to continue that and obviously build on it, and then at the same time our doors are open for the first time. We've got our players coming in. It's really unusual. I don't think we've ever been in a spot where we haven't seen our guys for this long, and so to see who's coming in and what kind of shape, and so far it's all been great, and just to catch up with people in general. So a lot of positives going on, and we're really excited about it.
Not much to add on that. It's a great day, Jeff, for baseball, for the fans, both nationally and locally. I think the excitement that we built going into the lockout was wonderful. I hope that it continues coming out of this, because I think it's a great day for the Rangers, and we're very excited to get started.
Yeah, and I echo the same thing. It's just been really good to connect with the players, get them on the phone. We've had guys come in. I've already seen 8 or 9 of them now. So just getting back, seeing what they've been doing. Honestly, good to see them back out on the field. They're going to go out and hit, and got to throw some bullpens today. And it's a tremendous day for all of us, honestly, and more importantly, the fans.
Evan?
John and Chris, this is for both of you. What were the hours like after everything was ratified? Can you just kind of, I'm not asking you who you called last night, but what was the activity level like, and how would you describe it?
So I think much of the work had been done leading up to it. As you may have been aware, we had a couple months to prep for it. So it was just operationally, and we had MLB had a call, kind of update us on the status of the CBA and some of the new elements of it. operationally some questions that we had. And then really, there was probably, I don't know how many, 15, 20 of us that stayed here till probably, I don't know, 10:30 last night. We had, previously split up the calls that needed to be made. And so as we were connecting with some agents and clubs, and as, Woody's having conversations with players, we would huddle back up in our offices and kind of share the information that was coming in. And so it was a lot in a short period of time, but I felt like we were prepared for it.
No, I think it's a pretty good answer. I mean, it's a lot to digest, a lot of information coming quickly, and a lot of moving parts. Certainly, we're still wrapping our head around a lot of it, but nonetheless, I think we did everything we possibly could to be prepared for this moment. And it was exciting to get our group together talking baseball. It was a fun night for us as a group, and we're excited to continue that through the spring.
Hey, and then just the follow-up on that just is, I just want to make sure I understand. Like Woody and the staff, and I know trainers and everybody had to call the players and talk to the players. When we talked to a couple of guys, they talked about the long list of guys. You guys and the front office and the assistant GMs, you guys all split up, like reaching out to agents. You weren't in touch with players as much last night.
Generally, no, yeah.
Okay.
Paul Kruger's done just a tremendous job helping us be prepared here, and so he had a group of folks that he helped spearhead it. Had once we were given the green light, these are the calls that need to be made, and so we had a little bit of a script to work off of. The coaches and trainers and Josh Shelton and the rest of the crew that knew who they needed to call and what kind of the most pertinent piece of information we need to gather.
Okay, anybody else in the room? Kennedy?
I guess going forward, obviously we all know the splashes you guys made before the lockout started. Is there anything specific you guys want to target? Not individuals, but one thing that y'all are looking at. Not individuals, but
No, I think Kennedy, I think as we assess the roster and the needs, I think that probably the two biggest ones that we would like to continue to address are starting pitching and potentially an outfielder, maybe a corner outfielder. But, we're just evaluating the market right now and having preliminary conversations and seeing where those lead. But I think those are probably the two biggest areas.
Do you guys feel like third base is covered? I mean, I know you have Kiner, but behind him, you don't need a Charlie Culberson type or even a everyday.
I think we have really good options. I think one of the strengths of our club right now is a lot of versatility in the infield. Between Kiner, Marcus, Corey, Andy, Nick, we have a lot of Yanni. We have a lot of versatility there and coverage at a number of infield positions. So we're very comfortable with Kiner at third and excited for him to have this opportunity.
Anything else? Room?
We'll let some guys ask some questions.
Nice of you, Evan.
We're nice people.
Go to Chris Halleck.
This could be for either JD or CY. Over the past 99 days, have you guys used that time to possibly rethink your strategy when it comes to external additions, whether it be, okay, we're going to stick with the same strategy, or are you just kind of calling it audible, so to speak?
Chris, I think there was pretty ongoing discussion internally, just as far as what our options were, and talking as well with ownership and their raised desire to continue to improve the club. So I think it evolved over the winter. Again, I think we did with the 4 additions beforehand. Probably did most of our heavy lifting at that point. Like CY said, we still have some areas on the roster that we want to upgrade. And what those ultimately look like will depend on what the market is and the acquisition cost, obviously.
I guess my follow-up to that would be, were you given any new parameters on what your budget for this year's payroll will be? Or are you kind of sticking to the same number you had before?
Similar answer before. We've had a lot of discussion with Ray, and I think he's been very committed to giving us resources that we need to help improve the club.
All right, thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Newey.
I have two questions here. First one is for Woody. how will you go about trying to pace your players in terms of, getting them the work they need, but also because the season's right around the corner, you don't want to get anybody injured having nagging injuries going into the season?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's something, we're going to obviously communicate with our players individually. I think we have a game plan for pretty much the group itself, but we got to have those individual discussions, see where they're at. Obviously, give them an assessment, a physical assessment, get them through physicals right away to see where they're at, and then kind of adjust accordingly. But the position players, they're going to need a certain number of bats. They're going to want a certain number of bats, and we're going to have to be, pretty smart about it. But at the same time, give them what they need without risking injury. So it's a little bit of a balancing act in that regard. But the pitching, we got to get our hands on them. We got to see them. They may be able to throw a light bullpen or something. And Doug and our medical staff and SAGs are going to have to figure out, are they ready to throw live BPs? How quickly do we get them out there? The one thing we're not going to do is push those guys too fast. If they're, only able to throw 60 or 70 pitches opening day, that's fine. But we're just not going to risk injury at this point or a setback, which could cause them to not even be available opening day. So it's a little bit of we've never had to deal with this to this extent. So, we just got to communicate.
All right. My second question is for you, John. Knowing you since you were 28 when you were assistant GM and you get the GM job and you spend this time, proving yourself that you can do the job. And then, obviously you had the 2 AL championships with the team. How do you view your job now? How do you view what you do now in terms of showing you can, rebuild an organization and get back to that?
Man, 3 of us had breakfast this morning and talked about what to be prepared for, and that wasn't on the list. I wasn't really expecting to talk about me, and generally uncomfortable doing so. But I think we're at a good point in the organization, a good moment in the organization, insofar as that the last few years of win-loss record have been challenging for our fans, been challenging for all of us. We're all competitors, and that part hasn't been fun. That being said, behind that, we've built a strong organization, a lot of talented folks, and a lot of talent on the field. That's been the last few weeks. That's the one silver lining of this lockout. Is when we've been able to spend some time around our minor league staff and our minor league players and seeing them. So, I think we collectively as a group and also individually are proud of that group that we've built behind them. That's really the strength of the organization at this point is, the quality of people on and off the field, and that's what's going to lead to us accomplishing our goals and winning championships.
John, that was a Russell Wilson type answer. You didn't answer the question. It was about you, my man.
I know, man. What else we got?
Let's go to Levi.
Hey guys, so I don't know if you've talked to either of these players, but so whether you're entering this as an actual or as a hypothetical is fine either way. But Jonathan Hernandez and Jose Leclerc, as 2 guys that sort of were in a rehab program before the lockout happened and are now going to be reporting at some point, how does that onboarding process go for you guys as far as getting them checked out? Like how many players are you going to have to kind of check in and just see if they're even okay medically?
Yeah, Levi, that's something that we've prioritized as one of our biggest things coming out of the lockout is just the initial contact with all of our players and being able to assess where they've been, what level of activity they've been doing. And then once they report, putting them through a physical assessment beyond the normal physical to really wrap our heads around what they're prepared to do as they enter the field. It's no different for Jonathan or Jose than anybody else, really, for that matter. I think we're pretty comfortable in where both those players were in their rehab going into the lockout. And given their work ethic and makeup, we expected that they would come out of it in good shape. We're hopeful that that'll be the case, and that's true of everybody. But it has been a very, very big priority for us, as Woody referenced, just understanding where our players are and making sure that we do not do too much too fast, that we put them in the best positions to take the field over the next few weeks.
And then just a housekeeping question. Is the first full squad official workout Monday or Sunday?
Monday.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Hey, I don't know if this is for JD or for you, CY, but so we know you want to do more than you've already done in free agency, and you could have and normally would have had a long time to do that. Now it's a very short time. So what's the timetable? Do you have to act very quickly, or what's the timetable on trying to do these other things you'd like to do in free agency?
Well, John, I think that we don't control the timetable completely. I mean, I think that we're making a lot of calls and trying to understand where both the free agent and the trade market is, but some of that's beyond our control. So I think that we certainly want to fill some needs, but we're not going to push anything. We'll make good deals if and when they present themselves, but. As I said, I think there are a couple spots we'd like to add. We're assessing the markets and we'll evaluate, but the timetable is not completely within our control.
Thank you.
Stefan.
Hey guys, I'm curious. The opener's April 8th in Toronto, correct?
Yes.
With Canada's COVID vaccine restrictions still going, can you tell us whether or not all of your current roster guys are vaccinated and will be able to play in that series, or do they have to be rushed through a vaccine process if not?
Yeah, great question, and one that we don't have the answers to yet. We quite literally couldn't speak to any of these guys until yesterday, so we're not certain of their vaccination status. That's one of the things that we're assessing as they come in and as our medical staff is talking to them. Had some preliminary talks with MLB just about how the mechanics of that will work if we have a group that is not vaccinated and ultimately not able to travel to Toronto, but we don't have all the details on that yet.
Okay, thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
Alex.
When you guys reassess the past 99 days, how much reflection goes back to the previous few years with this organization?
Well, I'll start. A lot of reflection over the last year for me. The previous few years I wasn't as familiar with, but certainly I think more than anything, just really assessing our roster, what our strengths were, where our player development system is, where we need to fill both in terms of player personnel and front office or coaches, and reflecting upon how we can continue to improve. But I think that's a never-ending thing. I don't think that's unique to the lockout. I think that's something we always want to do, and continue to look for ways to get better. But I think that the lockout did provide some downtime to really spend time in areas that maybe we would not have been able to do in a normal off season. But that ongoing reflection and searching for improvement never stops.
Mac.
A question for Chris and John. Given the kind of commitments you guys made in the offseason to some pretty big-time players, are making the playoffs in 2022 a plausible goal?
Mac, I'll start that. Yes, there are no limits on what a team can do. Stranger things have happened. There are no limits. So I think that one of our main goals for this season is that we take the field expecting to win every single day. And I think we have the right players in that clubhouse to do that. It's something that Woody has set as a standard within the organization. We're going to take the field every day looking to win. And when we do that on a daily basis, we take the field, we expect to win, we play the right way. Anything is possible. As we look at the roster, and as JD referenced early in the offseason, certainly we're not a complete roster yet. I don't think we feel like we're a championship team yet. There's still needs there. However, jumping from 60 wins to 100 wins is probably unrealistic. But what the playoffs look like, we're not ruling anything out.
Yeah, no, I thought CY nailed that. Not a lot to add there. But I think the phrase that you used that really liked, we're just not going to set any limits on this team. and ultimately what we accomplish, largely depend on the individual improvement that we see from a lot of these guys. And we said at the press conference when we announced the four guys, we took the approach of, I should say, some teams take the approach of building a young core over 2 or 3 years. They develop and get to the big leagues. They get their feet wet. They go through the learning curve, and then they add kind of the impact players. We chose to add the impact players a year before that. Kind of we thought that the influence that these players have on our team, in the clubhouse, on the field, would accelerate that process. And so excited to see that get going here.
Thank you.
Let's go to Emily.
Hey, Woody, with so much turnover on the roster, with so many new guys, is there a way for you as the manager to kind of more easily facilitate that chemistry, that that culture that you want with your unit as a whole?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge for me personally, is just with the time off. I really challenged those guys when we weren't able to speak to them, basically right before the lockout started. Really challenged our core guys to reach out to one another, to communicate with each other over the time off. We didn't know how long it was going to be. We thought maybe it would be January, we'd be able to talk to them. I don't think anybody saw this, that would be this long. But in talking to some of the players, they've been communicating throughout this. They've been talking throughout this. So that's encouraging. So when we step on the field, we got to get creative in spring training, I think, and creating some more team bonding things, kind of get guys around each other, just kind of build that chemistry. What we had in the last couple of years wasn't, in a win-loss record, wasn't great, but the chemistry and the culture that we've created has been good. And so adding, Corey and Marcus and John and Cole Calhoun, and anybody else we add, they're going to step into a locker room that's, pretty established as far as the culture goes. So the next point to that is what CY just said, and that's, creating that expectation to win every day. That's the thing that we haven't had, and I'm excited to bring that in there.
Thank you, sir.
Back to Levi.
Hey, when you guys are talking about starting pitching as an area you would like to address, I'm curious of the factors that you look at when you look at a starting pitcher. How much do you weigh the ability to be kind of an on-field impact guy now versus a guy that can sort of be that mentor for young pitchers as they come up? You've got a bunch of young starting pitchers that are going to be hitting the big leagues soon. Or are those two things kind of just yes, both?
Well, probably more suited to these guys, but yeah, I think it's important. We have a very young staff, as you just mentioned, and I think it is important that we have somebody to come in and kind of set the standards, set the expectations. We got to be really careful with who we do bring in, because these guys are a little bit vulnerable in how they conduct themselves, and we have standards that we've already set. But the impact that maybe a guy with some experience that's been through some ups and downs in the big leagues and does things the right way, that would really help us. That would be probably more beneficial than anything they'll do on the field, to be honest with you. So the next part of that would be the expectation to compete on the field. Obviously, we want to bring in somebody that's going to be good, that's going to pitch innings for us, pitch quality innings for us. So ideally, I'll kind of hand it over after this one, but ideally, would love to have a guy that can do both.
Yeah, I think to echo what Woody said, we're looking for both, Levi. Anybody we bring in, is the expectation is they're going to be the right person. They're going to be a leader. They're going to fit our culture. But we're also looking for good pitchers as well that can perform on the field. That's equally important.
And then I had a question about opening day with all the pageantry that goes along with it. This big announcement that opening day is going to be April 7th. Has the league talked to you guys at all about moving that first game up a day? And I'm asking for my own travel planning purposes.
No, right?
No, not that we're no.
Okay. All right. That's all I need. Thanks.
Steven.
Hey, Woody, kind of following up a little bit on what Emily asked a minute ago, and obviously what JD mentioned early in this thing about one of the most exciting days for this organization, followed by this long time. How was it for you knowing Corey and knowing the guys that you got How tough was it for you not to be able to talk to these guys, and how's it been?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but listen, I'm glad we got it done beforehand because, it kept me, obviously, I think it kept everybody going, including our fans, that, hey, this was going to end at some point. And when it did, we're going to pick right back up. I can't be more excited than I am right now. I'm just excited as I was, when I sat in that press conference. Got a lot more family time, a lot more organizational time, with our minor league staff and players. So we use the time wisely, but now it's go time. And, we're all excited. Can't wait for these guys to get here, pick up where we left off with the momentum that we had.
With the background you have with Corey, how much and what you've seen him do in the last years, how much do you feel like he can really come in and establish himself as a leader pretty quick on this club?
I think so. His desire, and the cool thing is just talking to him, prior to the lockout, and then obviously again last night, he has a desire to do that. That's why he came here. He wants to build a champion. He wants to show the rest of the organization what it takes to be a champion. He's willing to do that. I'm going to help guide him through that. Not asking him to change who he is or be anything different. Exactly who he is what we want. The way he plays the game, the way he prepares, the commitment he shows every day, the discipline he shows every day is unmatched, in my opinion. So to have that, he does want to take a little bit more of a leader role. In LA, I think there was some other people that kind of took on more of those roles. Here, he's like, I want to be the guy. Marcus said the same thing. So we're fortunate that they came here with that intention to be leaders. It's pretty rare to have guys that actually want that responsibility, but both guys want that.
Let's go back to Evan.
Woody, you threw out a number of 60 to 70 pitches, and I don't know if that's kind of your baseline, but is that what you guys are kind of envisioning, that your starters would be limited to? What do you look at going into the season in terms of what's going to be a benchmark for starting pitching and all like that? I know different guys are different.
I mean, just talking to Doug and Sags, and listen, they're going to schedule everything out. We're not going to put a guy at risk. That's first and foremost. So I don't know what the number looks like, but there's a progression that has to happen. The position players, they're going to get their bats. They're going to, be able to get off live BPs. They're going to face guys in games. We're not going to risk those guys either. They're not going to play every single day just to make up the time. But the pitchers have to build up. And so, if they come in and, they throw a bullpen for a couple of days, they show that they're, they look really good, ball's coming out good, and they've told us, hey, we've thrown 3 or 4 live BPs already. Maybe we accelerated a little bit as far as like getting them out there, but we're not going to put anybody at risk. So whatever that schedule looks like, we're totally fine. If it's 1 or 2 games to start the year where they're throwing 60 to 70 pitches, we're okay with that.
I mean, can they get with 18 days of exhibitions, can they get the 60 pitches? Can they get the?
I think so, yeah.
You guys are comfortable on that?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. And, some even more than that. I don't know what the number's going to be. I can't tell you as we sit right now, but we are not going to risk having a setback with these guys.
And then, JD, you talked about what kind of how the philosophy or reassessment has evolved since the lockout went into place. Do you feel like, you said Ray has continued to emphasize that he'll give you resources. Do you feel at all like it has evolved to a point where there is more likelihood to push in a little bit more towards this year, or do you think it's not so much?
I think it's really specific to what the opportunities are that we bring to them, what we recommend, and we've got ample resources just on paper in this year's budget, but we're also looking at this as a multi-year progression out the next few years, and to continue to build the team, and that's how we're presenting it to Ray too. Is that it's not just this year's free agent class or this year's trade opportunities. It's who's likely to come available over the next 3 or 4 cycles, whether that's July or off season. So we're trying not to be too rigid in that, and to stay open-minded to opportunities as they come along.
Anything else in the room?
Yeah. So you guys have spent last however many weeks watching minor league players, and they're going to be ahead of major leaguers, and game ready, and maybe even ahead of them on April 8th. Is there any chance that your roster has more minor league players than you were anticipating to start the season?
It's probably tough to predict. I mean, there's elements of that question that will be impacted by where we start the season. So I think that we've got a lot to assess there. But ultimately, I think that the big leaguers that we have in camp, the expectation is they'll be ready to start the season. Obviously, things can happen during spring. We want to make sure, as we've said, that we have a proper build-up. We're conservative, but I think that we'll be in good enough shape with our big league roster to have them. And Jeff, we're very excited about the minor leaguers that we've seen. It's been a really a highlight for me. I think for JD and Woody being out here the last several weeks, getting around these guys. And while they are ready, and Arizona is a tough place to evaluate, we're excited about our big league roster too.
Are the minor leaguers as a whole, is the system better, more talented than you thought it was after this evaluation period, or is it what you thought?
I like to under-promise and over-deliver, so I don't want to go too far. But Jeff, it's the talent in our system is real. It's been really fun to watch these guys. Just the work ethic, the way that they've come in, the purpose, the commitment, the way these guys reported early, even before early minor league camp. We've got a great bunch. Our scouting department has done a tremendous job, both our amateur and pro. And it's exciting. And then our player development side, I think we're in great shape there. And there's a lot of talent. I'm looking forward to our future.
Are there any visa issues with 40-man guys?
Not that we're aware of at this point. We actually are fortunate. We have a number of our international players that are on either multi-year visas or have residency. So we don't anticipate any at this point.
We've had multiple questions about how, I guess, the strategy may or may not have changed over the last 99 days or whatever, but does the expanded playoffs, I guess, factor in to anything you guys are doing?
Specifically, no. I mean, our goal is to make the playoffs and to win the division, independent of how many teams or how many opportunities there are. But I think that we no, and I think this has been a fluid negotiation, and we've been on the outside looking in. We, as of yesterday, kind of found out exactly where the rules were and how many teams would make the playoffs. So I don't think that's impacted 99 days worth of work that we've put in.
And just going off of what Jeff asked about minor leaguers, is there anybody that maybe stood out to you that even maybe that you didn't expect during this minor league camp where you guys have been evaluating them?
I think a lot of the guys, I mean, there's a lot of talent out there. I think a guy that, comes to mind, I mean, I know we gave him some money, but like Cam Cauley, like there's Aaron Zabala, and just some of these guys that, we obviously evaluated in high regard, but just the way they carry themselves, the way they compete, the way they train, it's been awesome to watch. And honestly, I don't want to single out too many young players, but just the minor league staff, I think, has to be part of the conversation in talent. Our processes, all the things that we try to do to align top to bottom. And it isn't about us saying at the big league, this is how we do it, this is how everybody does it. It's a collaborative effort. Our mental skills department, our nutrition department, everybody has poured into our entire organization. And there's a lot of clarity in who we are as Texas Rangers. And I think our players are showing that. They're excited to be here. When you hear Josh Smith quoted as saying, like, this is a great organization that cares about me, that wants me to be great, that's what we want to see from our players and hear from our players.
Kenny, just to follow up on that, I think one of the great things that we have is the village across the street. We had over 130 minor leaguers out here before, into early minor league camp, before spring training has started. And we had an unbelievable amount of staff here as well to support them and provide as many resources as possible for them to prepare for the season. That is going to pay dividends, and it's a great thing for this organization, and it's been fun to see our players take advantage of it. And as front office, as a coaching staff, we're certainly committed to giving them every resource possible for them to be successful.
You guys good? Okay,
Sure.
Good. We'll take one last question from Stefan.
All right. Jeff might have asked this already, it was a little murky. Do you expect all the roster guys to be there by Sunday? And how many guys have already arrived?
Stephen, we think so. We've got, I know we couldn't get, I missed one, we couldn't get visa appointments prior. You have to be able to talk to the players to get their visa appointments. So to follow the paperwork, we weren't allowed to do that. So I think Yuri Rodriguez might be one guy that's slightly delayed through no fault of his own. But we anticipate that everybody else should be here by Sunday. By the way, you guys would absolutely love watching John Blake fight with his phone over here.
Is that him? I thought it was Evan.
No, if it was Evan, John would have yelled.
So can you tell us, did anybody show up this morning?
Nobody showed up.
Yeah, I don't know exact numbers, but we've got probably a dozen or 15 players here.
We got guys who take their own bullpens.